Welcome to Ignite Intimacy, a podcast exploring intimacy, romantic relationships, sexuality, and the all of everything that relates to these hot topics. We're going in. You ready? This is your host, Miss La. Let's do this. Well, so tell us a bit about the talk that you did last night.
Oh, great. Thank you for asking. It was, first of all, it's becoming a series of talks. Last night was the inception of Sensual Mama Salon.
Ooh.
And yes, and the talk was dispelling the tight pussy myth.
Ah, yes.
So it was a bold title, and, in light of the word pussy being thrown out there, I decided to go for it and really own it, because it's been a word for me that's quite normal.
Yes,
for
same.
the past 15 years. Yeah. So, but it wasn't, at some point it wasn't though, Laura Aisha. It was like, what? So I knew that there might be some women that were attending that might be sensitive to it, but were taking that beautiful leap into learning more about their bodies and pleasure and what turns them on and what this was, exactly I was going to dispel. So I want to honor those women all around the world, really, who don't have that opportunity to actually do that. I get to stand in front of a group of women, but a lot of times people don't even have access to that. And saying something like that could get them into big trouble. So
well, and not only that, but it's interesting because I've for years referred to my womanly, genitalia as my pussy, and that is just a term that I'm more comfortable with. And it's not so medical. It's not medical at all. It's to me, it's sexy. It's hot. It's different. And and I posted something online. There was a march that Arab and Israeli women did to support peace in the Middle East. And it happened, I think, in Israel. I'm not sure exactly where, but there were definitely Palestinian women and Israeli women and other Arab women that connected with Israeli women, and they played music and chanted and drummed and marched and shared. And it was so powerful. And I shared it on my Facebook page, and I just said something like, real pussy power, I'm so grateful that I am a woman. I'm so grateful that I have a pussy. I'm so great, and it was so interesting because a handful of people commented, some men, some women, who said, I hear your message, but must you make it so derogatory? And I thought, that is so interesting. And then a woman commented that, and then a guy commented something about the same sort of thing, can't we call it this, feminine power, or, can't we call it something else? Why does it have to be pussy power? And it's I thought that was so interesting. I was so curious about why that seemed to be the block.
Yeah, that is wonderful that you noticed that. And first of all, thank you for sharing something like that. There is having danced Middle Eastern dance for many years and loving to move my body, there's a beautiful, deeper part to that connection with women that you can experience in such a sensual, beautiful way. And I know the charge that people feel around the word itself, and they use it as often it's looked at as a dirty word. And the thing is, Laura Aisha, is that from birth, women are judged right away by their genitalia. So they're not oh, she's feminine. They look at you and go, oh, she doesn't have a penis.
Yeah.
And so right off the bat, there is a distinction that's made because of genitalia. And along the way, the word pussy shifted from something that was revered and personified as a word that was used for strength and honor and connection into something that personified the dirty, the bad, the loose, and so there is a movement out there, you're right, that women talk about reclaiming and uplifting. So my thought around this is that when we put two words together that are chargy, like pussy and then power. Right? That women in particular get charged up, and men respond to that too. So I'm not going to, energetically, really, it doesn't matter like what your sexual preference is. It becomes a really charged up subject. Mm-hmm. So my thought around this is to really start to shift the conversation and your power, because we know that it is a source of strength and empowering, but to start to shift the conversation about what exactly and why and how, and have a new pleasure vocabulary.
Yes.
So I don't say I stand in my pussy power. I actually say I stand in my pleasure.
I love that.
And so when I come from this place of knowing, that pussy is for me is about my pleasure. And I take pleasure in everything I do, not just my sex life or the sex acts that I have, but I shift it to one of sensuality, because I can derive so much pleasure from engaging my senses and tuning in using the guide of pleasure. I call it my new GOP.
Yeah, baby. Love that.
It's like, all right, I'm the GOP, baby. Guide of pleasure. So you start to shift the conversation into what has us feeling good, what tastes good to us, what smells good to us, what sounds good to us, what looks good to us, and start to go from a different place that this word pussy really starts to take a new meaning on. And we're like, where is the source of pleasure? And let's make no mistake about it, right, Laura Aisha? The only purpose of a woman's clitoris and her pussy is to feel pleasure. It's her birthright to feel pleasure. And of course, yes, there's a reproductive aspect that we're taught in school, and our education around our sexuality is based in reproductive health. There's a new shift, and that's what we're feeling. And that's why people are getting edgy. And we're shifting to pleasure. Yeah. And in that shift, it's like, how do you talk about it? And we're still talking about it from a point of view of the popular culture. So look up the etymology of power. Power is really comes about from like taking over and from wars and overcoming, and it is quite masculine derived. And originally it may not have been, but that's how we respond to it. Like when you think of power, don't you think of like who's in power? So
or power over another.
Power over another. So when we come from that point of view, even though it may not, we're really wanting to share the story about how we find great joy and pleasure in our pussies and our genitals, that, putting it together with power almost sets us up for like confrontation amongst the masses, And so we're moving through this like new paradigm shift, right? Because how can you not feel it? There's so much energy, all this beautiful stirring of the sensual, pleasurable pot is coming to the forefront, and need not be victimized by it. We must take that energy. I am so excited about it, and shift the conversations of how we show up in this world. And as women, this is where we get to lead, where we get to soften, where we get to honor, and we come into community, and we get to have these conversations like the one I did last night around dispelling, the tight pussy myth, so that it becomes no longer a place of shame, a place of sadness, a place of wrongness, a place of destruction, and we start to shift the conversation.
Yes,
and then we start.
Well, and that's what this is all about. But finish your sentence. I'm sorry. And then we get to
elevate each other, and that's how we start the shift.
That's right.
In the world, right? We elevate each other as women, and from our pleasure, from our fun.
So this is great, because I had Lindsay Miller on the podcast a while back in the fall, and we talked a lot about this because, she's been in Mama Gina's course and learning a lot about pleasure. And for women, especially starting our day with pleasure and bringing more pleasure into everything that we're doing. And I've got, Mama Gina's Pussy Reclamation book right on my bedside table here. And I also am going to be speaking with two sistren of mine. We're doing a monthly call, an Empress Mind, around Mama Gina's book, Pussy. And there's, oh my God, just so many different things that are coming up for me in this conversation around this, because as connected as I feel to my own body and as, the ways that I've been exploring pleasure, specifically sexual pleasure through the years, I'm still finding myself feeling not fully expressed and shut down in certain ways and, tensing up to orgasm instead of relaxing and that kind of thing. So anyways, we're going to get into all of that. And first, I want to just make sure that our audience here on Ignite Intimacy knows the pleasure power priestess that we have on the line today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So do you, I know I call you, I vacillate between Lucia and Lucia. So what do you prefer? Lucia?
Yes. Well, it's Lucia, and it's so funny because I actually have formal education as a Spanish teacher. So in the past, I used to go by Señorita Lucia.
Nice. Okay.
But it's Lucia. I come from a long line of beautiful, glorious Sicilian women.
Oh, yeah.
So, and Lucia is my Nona's name, and I'm so gifted. I am really gifted to, my full name, Luciana, means graced by light, and I feel that she left me this beautiful lineage, and I'm honored. So yes, thank you so much for asking. I appreciate that.
I love that. So Lucia, Ignite Intimacy audience, just really, really grateful to have Lucia on the line with us today. She's literally been studying communication, relationships, and sensuality for the last 15 years. Deep dive into research and exploration and experience with regards to these topics, which is so exciting. And Lucia and I actually met in Santa Cruz, or no, did we meet at Lindsay's birthday party?
We did. No, we met in Santa Cruz.
Okay.
At the water circle ceremony.
Yes. Okay. At Nicole's place. Yes. Up in the Bonnie Doon Mountains. That was so divine. Yes.
Amazing.
Was. Our sister Despa has been leading these women empowerment circles directly related to the healing of our waters and what's been going on at Standing Rock. And so we met there, and then we crossed paths a couple of more times since then. And so Lucia is, as I said, a lifelong lover of learning, and she has been studying communication, relationships, sensuality, and female orgasm for the last 15 years. Her journey of sexual emancipation lifted limitations and expanded what she thought was possible. Lucia is proud to be a livicated sensual researcher and has experienced over 5,000 hours of female orgasm. Okay, we're going to have to get into that after I read the rest of your bio, because I need to know. I need to know, and I'm sure other people want to know. Like, what does that mean?
Of course, sure.
Once at a place of uncertainty in her marriage, Lucia had a major breakthrough when she was introduced to a path of deliberate communication and what else was possible for a woman's sexual potential. Along with her beloved husband, she made a bold move to San Francisco, where they spent several years living in an intentional community as sensual researchers. Here, they experienced how friendship, communication, a woman's orgasm can transform the quality of one's life. Upon returning to Santa Cruz, they continued to live their life through a lens of pleasure. Desiring to share her greatest passion, Lucia, a former Spanish teacher and photographer, listened to her calling as a sensuality instructor and pleasure coach. She, along with her husband of almost 21 years, awesome, Trevor, co-founded Luscious L.O.V.E L.O.V.E Life as a testament to their relationship, which begins with a foundation of friendship, nurtured through communication, is ever-changing and expanding. They are also grateful to be parents to an amazing 16-year-old daughter. Trevor and Lucia believe that by experiencing the universe through sensual gratification, pleasurable communication, and a woman's orgasm, life has infinite possibilities. Oh, yes.
Yes. I love that word. Oh, gosh, I'm taking that in and like,
yeah,
I feel
good stuff.
Good
Thank
stuff.
You. Mm-hmm.
What a fun introduction to hear that at the receiving end. feeling an immense amount of gratitude right now.
Well, thank you. And, thank you for being here and being on this path and this journey so that we can all open up more fully to it and know it better and have some experience or touch points or just information that may inspire some of us listening to this call and being involved in this call. That includes me to diving more deeply into this and choosing to say like, gosh, I really haven't been prioritizing pleasure, and how can I have more pleasure? Because I know that I can get stuck in this thought pattern around like life needs to be hard. Like in order to be truly successful, you have to work hard. In order to truly reap the rewards of life, you have to, you're going to go through hard times, and you're going to, and life is full of ups and downs. Life is full of tragedy and triumph and, feeling like a victim and feeling victorious. And it's just, at least for me, my life is, it's just fluctuating. It's dynamic. It's highs and lows and everything in between. And I know that the more that I start to, like, if I'm like rushing to walk to the train, I just recently moved to New York City and took a full-time job, it's been over a decade since I've had a full-time gig because I've been consulting on my own. But it's like when I'm walking to the train and I'm like really pushing it because I'm on, on a time frame and wanting to get to work by a certain time, and I didn't leave the house early enough or didn't wake up early enough or whatever. And then I'm like, oh, hold on a second, like slow down. Take your time.
Yes.
And you know what? Usually I get there in the same amount of time anyways, whether I'm booking it to the train and stressing my knees and my legs and my feet and my body and my emotions and all of that, or whether I'm just like, how can I be in the divine flow of life and allow myself to be, carried?
Absolutely. You and most of our humans on this planet run and are fueled and go in that way. It is a culturally ingrained that we have to pay for our pleasure. So this, Puritan ethic that no pain, no gain. Mm-hmm. You work 50 weeks to get 2 weeks of vacation. Mm-hmm. Once you're done with all your chores, then you can relax. Everything has to happen, and then you can have time for yourself. I'll schedule self-care, but I have to take care of everybody else, and then I'll take care of me. This is something, especially for women, that is how a lot of us run our lives. And like you were just saying, you're going to get there either way. And so you get to have this choice of how you experience your universe. You might be missing out on like so many different beautiful subtleties around life when you're on the go, when you're making the goal be the priority rather than your pleasure. And so, right. So we're very goal-oriented, including in the bedroom, right?
Well, definitely in the bedroom. Definitely in the bedroom.
Right.
Yeah. So, because we're talking a lot about orgasm today, right? So
yeah, we are. Well, yes, we can talk about, do you want to jump right into that, or do you want to share a little bit more about how that influences it?
Well, I just think about, again, my own experiences, and especially my experiences over the last few years, where it's so different when I just let go of the goal of orgasm.
Absolutely.
Like how
much
is relieved, how much stress and tension, and perhaps that's just the way that I at times relate to orgasm, which is stress and tension. And I even think of myself recently where it was like, the third go around, and I'm like, do I have the energy to like do all of that again? And I'm so curious about that thought. So let's talk about that.
Okay. Well, let's jump right in. I would love to talk about that. It's my favorite. So you're right. Our culture has definitely set us up because Masters and Johnson's in the 50s just defined what orgasm was. And it based an orgasm on the actual climax. So that's when we think of orgasm, we think of the goal ahead, which is ejaculation. And this is based on a male model of going over an edge and climaxing, and they quantify it within contractions within a certain amount of time. And generally that time frame is 15 to 30 seconds. And I don't know the exact totally figures in my head right now. I have all this, statistic stuff written down and use it when I can. But they also quantified a woman's orgasm in this too. So they based a woman's orgasm on whether or not she had a climax, and with going over, and how many contractions she had, and then quantified it. So the thing is, at the time, there was very little research and technology around how women experienced orgasm and pleasure, because a woman need not have a climax in order to feel pleasure through her clitoris. But, to have an orgasm. And actually a man doesn't necessarily either. But we're going to keep it on topic of female orgasm, because female orgasm is quite different. We actually have the ability, remember how I said it's your birthright to feel pleasure earlier? We have the ability as women, because we have 8,000 pressure sensitive nerve endings just in the one tip of our clitoris, because, the clitoris extends behind our vagina, and the roots. If you haven't gone, you can pretty much find this information. Google it.
And look for images and look at what an actual clitoris looks like.
It is astounding. And there's so many nerve endings. And those nerve endings don't just stop there. They go and travel throughout our body. So a woman's sexual potential is actually infinite. It's limitless. And we never fill up. We can actually have as much as we want. And when we're talking, I heard you say that by the third round, I'm exhausted. So now I want you to consider this one thought is like, as we're building to get to the climax, the goal, there's a lot, our body is actually tightening. It's like, achoo!
Yes,
then you have
totally.
Crotch sneeze. Okay, so that's the crotch sneeze version. It's beautiful because it feels so good, right? It goes through our body.
I just have to say, it's funny that you just said that, because I was with someone recently who sneezed and said, I love to sneeze. They say that sneezing is like 25% of an orgasm. Like it's like. And I was like, wow, that's so interesting. So it's really hilarious that you just brought that up.
This is really good. This is so good, because notice what happens when you do sneeze. Your body relaxes, and like your pussy actually relaxes. And you might even like pee. If you're a mom or anyone who, sometimes you sneeze. How many times have you heard that? Like you sneeze and, oh my God, I just peed a little bit. And then you tighten up real quick, whatever. And when you're relaxed, the amount of sensation that you're able to notice shifts when you're putting your attention on your clitoris. What I practice is something called deliberate orgasm, and it's a lifestyle, but there's also a technique to it, which is relaxing my body and not moving and trying to find the sensation of what pleases me, but actually deliberately feeling and stroking the most sensitive part of my clitoris. And of course there's, more advanced parts to that, but it's not just the technique. It's really the lifestyle of knowing how to communicate what it is that you desire, surrendering to your pleasure completely, and also, shifting the viewpoints that you have around pleasure. When the basis is, you're too big to have pleasure. You're too small to have pleasure. Your pussy's too tight. Your pussy's too loose. You're too much hair. You have too much this. Right off the bat, first of all, the tight pussy myth. Let me just define what that is. That's the idea that if you have a tight pussy, your intercourse or your orgasm will be better. Where does that come from? That tight pussy equates to more pleasure and better orgasm.
And for who? For who? A man or a woman? For who?
Right. And so it's touted as both. And so this comes from a very old reproductive health of the culture that's based in intercourse. And I call it the fuck-oriented society, where pleasure we've been told many years that the greatest way to get pleasure is through intercourse and having this, in-out act. And that's going to cause us to have great orgasm. The thing is, our culture has shamed women so deeply that right from the bat, I don't know if it was so funny. I was doing some research, and of course, Universe provides statistics right before a talk on the tight pussy with, last year, just this article came out last week, labioplasty surgery is on the rise 39% last year alone. 12,000 women went to surgically shift their pussies.
Wow.
To enhance 12,000 women. On the rise 39% in a year. Plastic surgery. This is a medical, surgical, under the knife. For not all of those were strictly for medical reasons. Most of those were because they needed a lift, a vag lift. What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Ouch. I mean, think about it. Your most sacred, beautiful parts are being toted in a culture that, has shown that women are looked at in a certain way. And so, of course, the word pussy is going to be looked at as disgusting because our culture has already set us up to feel like that. And unfortunately, it's really sad that the people who perpetuate it the most are actually women.
Wow.
It's not the men who are like, oh my God, your pussy's so ugly. I mean, yes, we've experienced shame from that, and I'm sure, I know I have. Like,
oh yeah,
my God,
yeah.
You won't shave, or you don't do this, or oh my God, how many men have you slept with, or any of those things are things that are told to us. But ultimately, it's ourselves. It's women. We have to start with a place, the place that we perpetuate it. And the big reason is that we've bought into the creams, the waxings, the we're not good enough. And there's been a real disconnect from this as our culture shifts and changes. We're really disconnected from our universe, from nature, connection.
Well, yeah. And a couple of things are coming to me, and I've, had my fair share of engagements with different men, and only a small percentage of them actually told me very genuinely, wow, beautiful. Like, your pussy is so beautiful. And like, every time I've heard that from a man, I just like everything melts and opens up. And I'm just like, wow, that is what I want. I want more of that,
Yes. Oh my God, you're going to make me cry. Yes, we do want that. We do want to be told our pussies are beautiful. And we, us sisters, we got to start telling each other that too.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
You know what? You are perfect the way you are, honey.
Yeah.
It is beautiful. And we don't look at enough pussies to actually to know. Our culture has like inundated us with like the traditional images through pornography, and not to say any of these are bad or good. Like, we've been bombarded with what we're supposed to attain rather than being as we are.
Yeah. Well, and there's a couple of interesting projects of pussy casts. So
I've seen that.
There's one, I think it may have been a man who did a bunch of them, and they were up at a museum somewhere, and it's just like walls of Great Wall of Pussy. That's what they called it. The Great Wall of Pussy.
I love it.
So check that out. I'm going to just make a note, show notes. And also there's this other amazing woman. She's based in Los Angeles, California. Her name is, hang on, bear with me a second. Corinne Loperfido, Loperfido, Corinne, Corinne. She is doing some really amazing work with regards to the feminine and pussy, and she's got like interesting jewelry line around it. She's got these events that she hosts in different markets around the country, and it's all to honor the pussy, the divine feminine, and all of that.
And you have in New York City, you have some incredible artists too, like Sophia. Do you know Sophia Wallace?
Yes.
She, oh my God, she is like all clitorisy. I mean, she's an amazing, amazing woman. And then, of course, there's Regina Thomas-Schauer, who aka Mama Gina, who's doing a lot of work around, the dynamics of, of the divine feminine womanly school of arts. And, and I want to say there's more and more awareness around it, and that's for sure. And also, I feel like I have to say that there's somewhat of a bubble for me. I remember I heard you saying that to Lindsay on her podcast about how we are really bubbled because we're so in it, right? And so the places that could really utilize this information more and more are not being addressed. And so I wanted to share a little bit and do a shout out to a woman named Andrea Barica, who is based out of San Francisco. Through her own experience of realizing that there was not a lot of places that came from a point of view of that taught at sex ed through pleasure, she first of all, she raised over $500,000 to start this website in Silicon Valley within a month and founded a completely new platform called O-School, which I'm going to be one of the there's about 30 of us that are pleasure professionals on this new website. It's not even launched. It's in beta testing, launches next month. And she caught this phone message from the United Nations.
Wow.
And I know her work and who read a personal blog post that she wrote after the elections around her experience and the lack of pleasure education and how that shifted our economy. Well, and so she's going to be going to the UN and talking UN women next week and talking with Planned Parenthood.
Okay.
UN, I mean, she
UN
is
women
on fire.
Okay, I need to know about this. I'm in New York City, so I
know the UNWomen.org, and she is going to be part of a panel. She's going to be interviewed by the Commission on the Status of Women. And I know O-School is a place for sexual education. So she believes it's time to speak up loudly for the right to sex education that not only keeps us safe, but that also prioritizes and destigmatizes the pursuit of pleasure. And that is her words. And her name is Andrea Barica, and she calls herself an empathy warrior, and she founded O-School, and she used to work in Fortune 500 startups.
Wow.
This woman is on fire. And there's another.
I need to meet her.
You too. I'm going to connect you. And there's one of the other pleasure professionals on O-School is my friend Wendy Petty's, founder of Good Girls Do. And she is in Brooklyn, and I'm connecting her with you too. We're getting like the goods. I have a whole slew of amazing, incredible, pleasure-centered educators. I mean, I just want to say there's enough surplus in our world that even though I have a business, Luscious L.O.V.E Life, and I want to say LOVE is an acronym for lighted, orgasmic, validated, and evolving, because that's what our lives are and can be. There's enough surplus in our world, at least in my life, to share with you that there are other people out there that are riding this train of pleasure. And this is the time, Laura Aisha, what you're doing in bringing so many different ways to experience pleasure to the one platform with Ignite Intimacy is so beautiful. Like, you are one of the pleasure warriors. You are a part of the pleasure revolution in what you are doing. And so coming on here is like, I'm on the train. I am on this journey with you. And yes, I may have, 15 years experience and 5,000 hours of female orgasm under my belt, but that serves me from a big line of women and men who have done this before me and have given me those tools to share and graciously share with all the people out there. And so I want my big desire, and I have big desires, right? My big desire is that the ultimate vision that Trevor and I have is to shift the paradigm of how we show up in this world. And that is one through pleasure, connection, and owning the beautiful birthright of women and men. Because when you're supporting a woman who's on the road to sexual emancipation, what happens for a man is that he too is becomes sexually emancipated. So the connection of using this vehicle of pleasure really starts to shift the universe, and it has that big a potential to heal, unify, and morph more than just your sex life.
Yes. Sorry, I'm cutting you off again.
Oh, I'm so passionate. I want you to speak, please.
Well, because I think of when I read that, you just shared so many amazing, amazing things. And I'm just so excited. I'm totally going to look up what's happening at the UN this week and see what it's possible for me to attend. And, I'm also in my new gig, we're talking with a corporate sponsor that is really wants to get up underneath and is getting up underneath the pay inequity equity issue in this country and around the world. And so we're talking with them about doing some co-collaboration on that. And there's some really exciting stuff happening. And so what I am so curious about is the 5,000 hours of female orgasm. And then also just that orgasm doesn't just come through the tip of the clitoris. Like there are so many different ways we can experience orgasm, and just people talk about living an orgasmic life and orgasmic eating and orgasmic dancing, and it to me doesn't necessarily mean you're like convulsing with pleasure from, you know, like having a sexual orgasm, but there are these different ways of experiencing an orgasmic life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And not to mention so many different ways that you can actually experience a sexual orgasm as a woman.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. So first of all, when I think of what you're saying, the first things that come up to me is that yes, there's many ways to experience the sensation of orgasm, for sure. And in saying that, all orgasm is clitorally based. So even though we want to say that orgasm, there's a stem from it, okay? And yes, we can experience orgasm by simply closing our eyes, taking a breath, and conceptualizing the connection between our genitals and our heart and our mind. And we could start to produce that sensation in our body. Absolutely. We could take great pleasure when we find connection through our senses, through our sensuality. And the 5,000 hours of orgasm training, it's training, but I also want to say it's experiencing. So I do practice every day. It's not a practice. I would say it's a lifestyle. I experience a specific type of orgasm called doing or deliberate orgasm with my partner is one way, where I relax completely and we decide and choose by agreement to put our intention on my orgasm, where he strokes my clitoris and we have communication through the whole time, sharing what I'm experiencing through my body and through my clitoris. He's sharing what he's experiencing in his body because he can feel it in his body too. And so that is one aspect, only one aspect of the 5,000 hours. And I've been doing this daily. How the number came up was kind of fun. And if you average like an hour a day of female orgasm, whether it's me doing myself or experienced it with a partner, I averaged about an hour a day for 15 years. And that's how the number 5,000 came up with. I'm hardcore on when it comes to my own pleasure.
I love it.
And I would say maybe hardcore is not the right word. Soft. I'm softcore because it's really slowing down. Yeah. You know how you're talking about the rat race, going, running. This is my opportunity every day of my life to start from a place of surrendering to self-love. And the deepest and easiest way to demystify that tight pussy myth is to really know that your pussy and body is perfect and that you find that connection with your body. And specifically women are really forgetting the most beautiful part, not just the lotions and creams on their legs and the workouts and the yoga, but serious appreciation and adoration for your pussy. And when you are tapped in and coming from this place, it's pretty hard to not love all of you. It builds. I mean, gosh, one day I'm going to teach the course, The Chemistry of Orgasm or of Pleasure, right? I mean, the feelings that go through our body when we're just feeling and, you know, gentle hands on our thighs or across our chest or slowing down or on our clitoris or, you know, touching our labia, the feelings starting from that place and going out, what we're able to give to the universe around us from that place is delicious. I mean, I look at my teenage daughter, Laura Aisha, and I'm like,
just read my mind.
You
just read my mind.
Like, this young woman blows me away with like her grace and her intuitive connection to her body. And, you know, we've raised her in a place of being in pleasure as your priority. As that is the good place to come from. You know, parents are like, you must do this to get into college and to get a good job and to get and I'm like, I homeschool our daughter, and gosh, this woman is just blows my mind. Her sense of knowing her body is shifting constantly. I'm watching it unfold like a masterful piece of art in front of me, just coming together. And it's amazing. It's amazing, amazing, amazing when a young woman has come from a place of like really knowing that she is a beautiful, beautiful human being inside out. And when I say beautiful, yes, physically gorgeous, but also the beauty that she can tap into is, it's shifting. Our younger generation is shifting.
Oh yeah.
And you can
Big
feel
time.
that, it's like they're talking about the fluidity of genders and connection and how that's going. And so they're navigating this waters for us, and we're feeling it too. And then the older generations are, older than us, are like, what's that all about? And so we're starting to find, like, we're feeling this beautiful connection happening. And, some places it's sticky still, and it's going to be for a long time, but it is on the forefront. And so the more we can start to acknowledge it and share it and spread our surplus around it, it's greater than just a physical shift in our orgasm or our bodies that's happening. It's like transcending to the way we receive money in business. It's transcending parent. We tend to compartmentalize all these things in our lives, right? As women, I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I'm a grandma, I'm an educator, I'm a nurse, I'm a this, I'm a that. And we tend to take these things and put them into different boxes, right? And like, what if we shifted that conversation and we be who we are? I'm Lucia, and through Lucia, I'm able to experience my life in many different ways, but they're all completely connected. Yeah. When I'm being a mom, I'm completely a sensual woman. When I'm being a wife, I'm still Lucia. When I'm being an entrepreneur, this is my life. Yeah. What I'm teaching is how I'm living. Yeah. And who I am.
God, I have so much respect for that. Well, and so a couple of things here that are coming to me just as we, kind of wrap up this conversation for now is I'm thinking about the energy that has been created to basically control women's pleasure and all of the female genital mutilation that happens around the world and in so many countries and the hundreds of thousands of women or more who have been cut and disformed and had their pleasure center taken away from them based on the premise of some religion or philosophy or really control, to be able to control the woman's pleasure. And I think of that, and I think of the good work that organizations like Toast on in Senegal, and I think they're working, the last time I checked, they were working in 8 to 10 African nations. And I know in Senegal alone, they had gotten 4,000 villages to commit to no more female genital cutting, and based on education. And they've got an incredible system, and the way that they work with and educate the people in these villages, and they basically develop allies within the village that carry on the work and live there and are the stewards of this new way. And so I think of that. And I think of the incredible shame and embarrassment of being young and even thinking about your parents being sexual. So I never heard my parents have sex. They were on the 3rd floor in our house, and it was just there was a lot of just shut down energy around sex and sexuality, a lot of shame and guilt and just heaviness around that when we were younger. And so, I think about how powerful it is for you to be teaching your daughter about this and her being a young woman. And I think of these young people who, for my daughter as well, she has a very different relationship to sex and sexuality than I did at her age. And there's just this openness that a lot of the kids seem to have these days. And I think technically my daughter is not a millennial. She's like a Generation Z or whatever comes after millennials based on when she was born.
Z.
Yeah. So I think your daughter's a Generation Z as well. And
she is.
So I think about that, and I think about how different that is. And I think about some of the challenges and things that my daughter and I have talked about based on sex and sexuality through the years and living in tight quarters, and as, you know, as conscious as I was about not bringing a lot of men around my daughter or having like all sorts of different men in the house, that was not my method when she was younger. But I did have some lovers and when she was younger, and there were things that she overheard. As careful as I tried to be, she still overheard things, and it impacted her in a negative way. And so we've had a chance to work through some of that through the years. And then for myself to just say, like, this is one of the most, if not the most natural part of life that there is.
Totally.
You know, and there's nothing shameful or dirty or guilt ridden about it. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of life. So I'm thinking just all about what we're talking about today.
Right. And it's so it's so beautiful that you're saying that. Can I address that a little bit? First of all, like just that one piece. It's just so, thank you for sharing that personal journey, because I think a lot of parents and moms, you know, they feel a lot of shame around the idea that they're actually sexual. Or they have a sex life, or they have pleasure and fun. And because you know, once again, let's go back to how the culture is set up to look at those things that are based in pleasure as unacceptable and private. And what it comes down to is that we have felt all that shame, right? I know that I was raised very strict Catholic household filled with shame on, like, don't you dare have sex. Don't you dare put that tampon in your pussy. Don't you dare do that. Don't you dare spread your legs until you're married. All these things that I was told that were shameful, but somehow became unshameful once I was past a certain age or married or had a baby. And then no one talked about it. But, you know, coming from this place of like trying to suppress and hide our pleasure from our families, from our children is, I mean, just if you think about that, it's like, you know, people would rather fight in front of their kids, you know, get angry and think of that as like totally culturally acceptable because it's painful, rather than show their blissfulness or kissing each other or connecting or being in their complete bliss. Maybe it's a noise, or maybe it's, you know, walls can be thin, but, you know, at one point our cultures lived in, you know, huts in an agrarian society together. And, you know, there was a natural flow to how that worked, and people weren't like embarrassed about this part. It was a natural, like you said, it is part of why we're here. I mean, yes, it's the reproductive part, but the pleasure part of it was not hidden. It was known very well that this was, you know, this was not just for reproduction, that your pussies were for pleasure. And it was a systematic shift into a completely new, more patriarchal paradigm that shifted this idea that somehow pleasure is only for the bedroom, and that, you know, it's like you can walk into a room and say, "Hey, I'm so sad because my family's dying of cancer and life sucks." But if you walked into a room and said, "Oh my God, I just had the best orgasm of my life," somebody's going to roll their eyes and look at you like you're nuts. And where did it become socially acceptable to talk about your pain but not your pleasure? So my friend Laura Aisha, you are a warrior goddess of pleasure, and so you making a space available to be part of the beautiful, because our voices get to be heard, and I'm so grateful. I'm so beyond grateful, sister. Oh my God, I'm cry.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm just so glad that we connected, and I think just in terms of how we've judged ourselves and been judged as women. You have a big pussy, you have a tight pussy, you have a bony pussy, you have a loose pussy, you have do you need to do more Kegels, and you need to, this and that, and you've had a baby, but oh God, your pussy's so tight, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, there are all these judgments around what a pussy is supposed to be and what it's not supposed to be, and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, and what's this and that, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, it's enough to make you crazy. And so you're what you and I and so many others are choosing to do is to be vocal about this and to say enough is enough. Let's just honor the pussy, okay? And the woman is not the woman. And some people might get pissed about this because there's just such a diverse array of human beings out there right now and moving forward. But it's like the pussy is such an essential part of being a woman, to carry this energy in the world. And it's such a gift. And it's something that I know for me, I felt deeply ashamed about for most of my life. You know, it's only in the past recent years that I've started to get beyond the shame of actually having a pussy between my legs, you know?
Right. And so because of this, because women have been shamed their whole lives, you know, I know that it's a touchy subject because, you know, our transgender community is like, well, I'm a woman and I don't have this genitalia part. But there's an honoring on both sides of, yes, you know, we can honor where the deep desire and feeling of being a woman, you know, that space is so honored. And like these two levels of awareness of, yes, for those who identify as women who happen to have female genitalia and pussies, we have been shamed, and the pussy has not been revered as this, you know, place of goodness and love throughout the recent history. At one point it was, but now it's like, okay, starting from this place, it's like, you know, women who have pussies, you know, are having struggles and owning it. And that needs to be embraced too.
Yes.
I think there's room for everyone to be and feel exactly as they are, because that's perfect.
Yes. Yes.
And there's a lot of, you know, the pussy holds a lot of learning.
Oh my gosh.
You know, it holds a lot of knowledge. And so, you know, I've been exploring this with many people recently, so it's kind of fresh in my head. You know, there is a lot of learning that can happen for people who identify as women who may not have female genitalia or genitalia yet, that you can learn from and experience that doesn't, you know, in different ways. Because through sensuality and through conceptual thought and through connecting deeper in our bodies, we can all feel the sensation of a woman's pleasure.
Yes.
And so, like Trevor, he can feel what I feel in his body. Even though he has male genitalia, he feels my orgasm. He feels my pleasure in his body, and he can experience that on such a beautiful level.
Wow.
Because I've been able to open and receive from him so deeply that he can feel it. It's like I gift him. It's a gift to him.
Yep. Well,
and I'm so honored that he wants to do that with me and do that, you know.
Absolutely. Because a lot of men don't even know that's possible. And we're actually, I want to have you and your husband on so we can talk more fully and have a male perspective.
Absolutely.
However, I just am so incredibly grateful that you joined us today for this conversation. And we're just going to continue to open the conversation up and talk more fully and more openly about this. And so, Lucia, where can people find you online?
Thank you for asking. So we have a website, www.lusciouslovelife.us, like the two of us, which is fun. We're on Facebook. We have a public Facebook group called Luscious Love Life, and love is L.O.V.E in the middle.
Okay.
And I wanted to, you know, put it out there that I love supporting women and men. And if you're wanting to prioritize pleasure in your life, I want to graciously offer complimentary make pleasure priority discovery session. So you can actually one-on-one with me for 45 minutes. And I'm so excited to be offering that. And I sent you a link. It's pretty extensive. So if you put it, I'm not sure if you're linking the call to that, but you can actually sign up for that through our website too.
Great.
So
yeah. And all of that will be in the show notes. So if you didn't get that, just come to the website, igniteintimacy.com, or look at the show notes on iTunes or Stitcher, or Google Play, wherever you're listening to this podcast. And again, it's just such a great pleasure to connect with you and have the opportunity to share your wisdom and your gifts with our community here at Ignite Intimacy.
Thank you, Laura Aisha. I'm grateful to be on and want to just send out some juicy love and pleasure to everybody out there. Thank you so much.
Well, and so you can check out Lucia and her husband's work at lusciouslovelife.us. Just make sure you spell luscious correctly. It's LUSCIOUS, lovelife.us. So it's lusciouslovelife.us, and then you can also check out Luscious Love Life, and it's L-O-V-E, but it's L.O.V.E on Facebook. That's a Facebook group. And then, of course, we'll include all of these links and the complimentary session with Lucia in the show notes. And links to the other incredible people that we mentioned
Yeah,
earlier.
I'll send you some links to the articles about O School. We're beta testing pretty soon, and it's going to be private, and maybe you want a special code perhaps to check it out soon. Yay! I'll have about 25 of those that I have a few that are already going out soon. In about a week, I'll get more, and I will put you on the list so you can be one of the beta testers for O School. How's that? Yay!
I love that.
Yay! And so when you sign up, if you decide to sign up for a complimentary Make Pleasure Priority discovery session, I will gift the first 2 people who do that with those codes when I get them. How's that?
Awesome. That sounds amazing.
Good.
Well, so much love and respect and honor to you, Lucia, and to the work that you and your husband are doing and your family and just everyone who's being impacted and expanded and uplifted through this work. And I look forward to having you on again with your husband so we could dive more fully into this.
Oh, yeah.
And Ignite Intimacy community, thank you so much for joining us. You can always holler at us at hello@igniteintimacy.com. That's hello@igniteintimacy.com. Please leave us a review on iTunes and check out our Facebook group, Ignite Intimacy. We love you. We're so grateful that you tune in, that you're part of this community, and stay blessed. And we'll see you on the next one. Ciao for now. Give thanks for tuning in to another conversation on the Ignite Intimacy podcast hotline. We love that you choose to spend your time with us. Check us out online at igniteintimacy.com and subscribe to us on iTunes. Also, tell your friends all about it. This beautiful music was arranged by Jason Pfaff and Mike Corey. And this podcast is produced by yours truly, Miss La. Give thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one. In the meantime, let your light shine bright and ignite your intimacy.